Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. And welcome to the Sentinel Talk Show. I'm your host, Dr. Erdal, and we got an absolute fantastic episode lined up for you this week again. Today, we are incredibly honored to have a true titan in cybersecurity world joining us, Paula J from CQURE. If you ever did anything with Windows security or attended any Microsoft conference, RSA, or Black Hat, you know her. And if you're not, it's a big mistake. This is a perfect opportunity to meet her and follow her. She is not only a highly respected Windows security expert, but also a C-level advisor, bringing a wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. Paula will share many great experiences with us today. Instead of me going to talk too much about her, I think it's better if I just invite her to the stage and she can tell us who she is, what she does. And Paula, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Erdal. Thank you. You're always too kind. And thank you so much, everybody, for your time and the possibility to listen to us speaking about cybersecurity.
All right, Paula. If you're ready, I think we should start now with the questions. We have, we have limited time, and I really don't want to hold you too much. I'm pretty sure you just about in an air lounge, about to catch a flight now. God knows where you are. So, given your extensive experience with penetration testing, red teaming, training, what are the most overlooked or misunderstood vulnerabilities in Windows security that organizations struggle with? That CISO C-levels, that they oversee it or overlook it? And let's start with that.
Yeah, to be honest, there are plenty today. And one of the biggest issues that I would define today, it's a lack of monitoring. But I'm not really talking about solutions like antivirus and so on that's going to inform us about what's going on, but about solutions and data sources that we should connect to in order to have a complete picture about the incident, so what's happening, and hopefully never is gonna anything's gonna happen. But at some point, what is actually quite important, and that's what we see in every single incident, is that there is no possibility to answer two major questions. The question number one is what happened. The question number two is, did it spread? Which means that if you, for example, do not collect the security logs from endpoints, and if you don't correlate it with the network logs and so on, then how we are able to answer the question, did it spread? We are not. And the problem is that whenever we do have that kind of a logs, then another challenge comes to place, which is leveraging the existing tools that everybody pays for in order to correlate that data properly, to build up an appropriate monitoring rules, to test them regularly, to make sure that we are in line with what is happening in cybersecurity. So that is something that I would name as a number one big issue every single time there is any kind of an incident. Also, sometimes we are totally overloaded with information, and that's another case. We could say, oh, well, we do monitor everything. Great. But in the case of an incident, I can tell you that when we've got even thousands of tenants out there, and then we've got a full monitorability to work with data that only has 30 days of retention, and then we've got millions of records to analyze at once, and we have to do it quickly, that's also another level of challenge. So what should be happening right now in most of the organizations, it's simply defining what kind of data you actually need. That could be also some cost saving, to be honest, because then we will say like, okay, we don't need that much. We need only that chunk of information. So at the end, that monitorability or lack of it, it's something that I would define as the biggest issue in the organizations.
And can you give one actionable step that we can take?
Yeah, so whenever we are thinking about the actions that we can take, then that's going to be to plan your threat hunting activity. This is an easy to gain, easy to execute type of action. And then within the threat hunting, just build up some scenarios So do the, as we call it, hypothesis-based threat hunting. And based on these scenarios, you can decide that, okay, we're going to be hunting things as if we could have that kind of an attack. And that will be the momentum where you guys are going to realize what kind of information you need, but you don't have, what kind of stuff you've got a lot, maybe sometimes too much. And that would cause you that first momentum where you're going to be adjusting information that you collect or you don't to the one that you need. So very easy step to take to arrange regularly a threat hunting activity. And that must be done in a smart way by someone who understands what kind of data is out there needed to build a full picture. So someone who knows internals of the operating system, not only Windows, but everything out there.
Thank you, Paula. You are not just a C-level advisor, you are also CEO yourself at CQURE Academy, and you deal with so many critical cybersecurity challenges. And as a C-level advisor, you also see top-level CISO, CIO, CTOs, whatever your customer base is, and I know they are all struggling. Being a businesswoman, being a cybersecurity expert, how can we technical people efficiently communicate the real risk and necessary investment with CEOs like yourself or with the teams?
Well, that's an interesting one because, I would assume that today we don't need to explain anybody on the C-level why cybersecurity is important. We all know that that impacts the business resilience. And if our company is going to be under attack, that's the moment that first nobody wants to be at, because then they realize how much money they're going to lose and how much of our business operations we're going to have interrupted through even small attacks that we could totally prevent if the cybersecurity was well done and in place. So in general, I would say that if we look and assess the company's risks that are out there today, even when we get into the different reports that are not that tech-oriented, cybersecurity is mentioned there as one of the important factors to assure the continuity of the various companies. Also, when we look into the World Economic Forum, then they produce a report, which I'm also assuming that every C-level person had their hands on at least for a moment. Then within the top 10 items that are important in this world, cybersecurity is always actually on the top, even within the first 5. So in general, it's very hard to ignore why cybersecurity it's out there, being an important subject, and why teams should have an appropriate budget to make sure that not only they are educated well, but also that you got solutions that would maintain your continuity within the current world.
Paula, now back to your business leadership role. I know you work with you are smart yourself. I mean, we know it. I know you for so long, but I know also your team. I was lucky enough to visit your offices in Warsaw. You work with very smart people yourself, and some of them are you probably say that even smarter than you. That's why they work for you. So, as someone who knows cybersecurity so well, being a cybersecurity celebrity, what if someone comes from your team and says, "Hey, Paula, look," because I face this a lot in my roles as well. I'm not a business owner, but sometimes I report to someone who doesn't have half of the credentials that I have. Sometimes I struggle to get my message down, but it's easier when I have managers like you because you would understand. But what if, what are the recommendations that you can give to people like yourself, the CEOs, to listen to the team more efficiently? It's probably a bit harder to trick you because of your background, but forget about you being a cybersecurity expert. What recommendations would you give to the CEOs to listen to the team?
Yeah, so very good question. First of all, CEOs in general, they do understand the risk. And when we look through this factor, then cybersecurity, it's when it's done well, once again, it's a risk mitigation, eventually strategy. If it's done well within the cybersecurity field, then we are less threatened. There's always a risk of the several components to fail. If we don't have a well-done finance, we're not going to know what we are standing on. If we do not have a well-monitored infrastructure, how do you know that information and the know-how that you produce and process is well secured? Yeah, so in general, that's when we do look into the modern threats, not being up to date is just like not understanding the risks that is related with our business resilience. How come we are allowing, for example, for the leak at home, the water leak at home, and then we're just gonna leave it like that? Not necessarily. We need to know every single corner of our home because it's our home. And when we look into the FBI's or also IBM's current statistics of how long hackers spend in infrastructure before it's discovered, the average is around 200 days. So just imagine you live in a house and then you go to the basement that one day and there's a guy sitting in a basement, and then you just ask the question like, who are you? What are you doing over here? And this guy is like, who are you? I've been sitting here for 200 days. And that's your home because that's the place where you process all necessary information to function. You rely on it. That's supposed to be your safe zone. And this is really how I look at the infrastructure. At the same time, I would tell you that I really like to think that all of the infrastructures are compromised. So we are assuming the breach, and then we maintain all the hygiene and all the necessary actions to make sure that we are achieving the highest state of monitorability, but at the same time, we do technically make sure that the solutions are resilient and not really prone to simple but also harder different external impacts that might happen from the hackers world.
Thank you, Paula. Okay, let's move on to our next question. As you know, the cybersecurity battleground is changing a lot. There is a huge shift. Cloud is now business as usual. Work remotely is business as usual. BIOD is business as usual. What about AI? AI is also coming into. Now, with all these changes, what would you recommend to organizations? How should they prioritize security? Should they just rely on tools, on techniques, on third parties? What would be your recommendations on this whole changing world?
Well, AI is, of course, everywhere. That's also a little bit of a subject that everybody's like, oh no, not AI again, and so on. But the thing is that we cannot really run away from the need of automation. And if we look at it in a good way, from the good angle, then we can think that AI, or I like to call it technology to connect the dots, can support us in taking decisions faster. And decisions in cybersecurity, they have to be taken really, really fast because lots of things depend on that decision. So if you wonder which way should we go into recovery, or maybe we should, for example, try to solve the case of the ransomware and then maybe try to even take another path. Yeah, so cybersecurity is strictly connected with business. And these decisions, though, like what do we do, what kind of chances we've got, or hackers inside the infrastructure, how do we find that guy and stuff like that, then having this in mind, then how would you know if not just checking all these places? It's as simple as this. You're going to log into workstation servers, you're going to look into the logs of network devices, you're going to check out the different portals that you are using as an external applications if they do support the detailed logging. So you've got a lot of data sources to correlate, and that's not just like a made up story. It's a story of every single incident. We always have to correlate logs from Jira, from the proxy, from routers, from servers, maybe also from some additional CM systems to which these data sources were not connected. And the direction here is very simple. Why don't we use some solutions, tools that would aggregate these data sources and be able to drive conclusions that would support us humans in the simple question answering process? So I want to know, show me all the processes, show me all the activities that were done by that account within that timeline, and correlate me that from the network devices, servers, and so on. But I want to only have that kind of a traffic that I'm interested in, because I know that someone was doing a lot of mess, but that one type of a traffic is something that I'm looking for. So something that is not really along the baseline. And that correlation can take days because you are processing millions of records, huge amount of data, and so on. So before you find a way as a human how you're going to be dealing with that data, that's already at least a day or night or even a day from like that 10 people's team. So that is the senior expert level of analysis that you would like to engage with in the incident. And you're not going to have hundreds of people because they're not going to do that kind of analysis. You're going to have like only the top ones, and they're going to be doing the analysis. Why that way? Why not, for example, leveraging only a couple of them and then using the tool that would be in a good hands, and there's going to be good questions asked by humans to the infrastructure. So when we think about AI today in cybersecurity, I would consider that a necessity to be able to get the things done faster and get knowledge that you want faster. It's like you would do the financial analytics. Same story. Of course, there's lots of human activity needed because we need to assess at the end whether that makes sense or not. But why not just having that benefit of analyzing things faster? That is exactly what would impact our continuity, and that is something what we business people understand perfectly.
I totally agree. Network visibility, ongoing security assessments, risk assessment, and then having expert like yourself on top of it to review this. It's also important. Sometimes having a great team. I hope all our customers have great teams, but doesn't matter how great tools you use, like Binalyze, like Microsoft, like you name it. Okay, you might have the best of the best team as well, but it's still good to bring expert like yourself in to verify what's been done. All right, talk about your expertise. I know you travel a lot. I know you speak in Black Hat in RSA. You were a couple of weeks ago in Australia. God knows where you're going to be next week. So I know for myself too, traveling a lot, going to many organizations give us the ability to see that others, they cannot see. So did you see anything recently which has surprised you that you had to consult with your team? Hey team, look, this is happening. Let's deep dive in it. I know you usually talk about this at Black Hat, but not everybody can go to Black Hat. I would love to hear from you a couple of sentences if you have anything to say.
Yeah, I did actually. There was a very interesting incident quite recently at our customer, and I was joining there to support that. And that was basically the DDoS that they have experienced on their NTP service. So NTP, that's simply time synchronization service. So question is, who do you synchronize your time with? Because yet again, if that component's going to be DDoS, even from the inside of the infrastructure, everything breaks and people cannot log into the various services and so on. So that is basically what they experience. But what is even more evil, I think, in that scenario is that they were not only DDoSed, but they were DDoSed with the time, with the date from future. So they were DDoS actually with the date of July 2025, and everybody moved to the future. Nobody could log in anywhere because things were just failing. And just imagine that when they went back to the original time, so that attack was like 20 minutes, then that was the moment where I joined, because they were like, okay, what's happening? 20 minutes passed, they were back to the regular operation, and I was joining, and I was analyzing that. And what we saw that was actually quite fun, that their solutions that they were dependent on, they didn't allow them to move to the logs or to the events in future, because that was so crazy, too fast, and not even predicted in the various solutions. In the cloud solutions they were using, they could only move 1 day ahead, because normally you wouldn't even choose, like, show me the logs from July. Like, why would you even have that kind of functionality? So the logs from July, they don't exist. Yeah, so that is also quite an interesting case. So there was quite a lot of things that happened over there. And as a hacker, if you want to hide, then you're gonna push the date to the future, then do the math. Yeah, you might actually be discovered, but who cares? Because the customer solutions won't really allow even them to look towards the future events. So there we go.
Interesting. So what proactive measures did you recommend them?
Well, first of all, question is, how do we secure our time synchronization? Yeah, and we were thinking about that, so that we can choose an appropriate source, and at the same time do not allow certain traffic that could be beyond that to even be accepted by any of the devices that were there. Also, you can set up, depends what you use, but for example, in a group policy, you don't have that kind of an option. You can though set up the regular registry entries, where you can say that you will not accept the time that is, for example, different, like in 5 minutes from what you got right now. So these skew minutes are basically something that you can configure. So we said that if the next time there's going to be such a case, then devices shouldn't even accept time that's going to differ in 5 minutes, within this 5 minutes block. And but also, if we talk about the network devices and some other devices that could rely on that kind of a time sync, then it really depends on the devices. Yeah. So the most important part though is to make sure that that kind of a traffic, when it happens, is going to be dropped by the device, the solution that decides to pass that on. And that's what we were reconfiguring.
Interesting, and thank you. So let's move to a different topic. I know you have lots of passion on training as well. You do many community work. That's why you are Microsoft MVP as well as regional director. How do I know that? Because we've been in this journey for God knows how long. I lost track. So
Sure.
leveling up is important. We keep speaking about training. Now, please don't get me wrong. I'm not here to promote CQURE Academy, but I'm here to listen from one of the best trainers in the world. So unfortunately, budget is sometimes an issue. If I have a limited budget, what CQURE Academy training should I take? Out of, yes, you don't have hundreds of training, but you have more than 10. What is the one that I should invest to skill up my knowledge?
That's a good question. I would recommend from ours hacking and securing Windows infrastructure. So that's for the not only Windows team, but for everybody to understand how threats look like and to learn how we are able to prevent them. And another one that we got, good one, that's the forensics and incident response. That's for the SOC teams, for the administration teams, for security teams to understand the threats. And another one, it's the cloud security one, which basically presents how we are able to not only to configure the cloud in a secure way, but mostly how do we configure it so that it delivers us information that we want, that we're going to need when the incident happens. And we've never seen a company, I don't want to sound challenging, but hey, why not? But we've never seen the company that had a cloud configured well, that there wouldn't be something that could be corrected, and definitely not the ones that would specify what kind of information they should be collecting and what they shouldn't. They just sometimes say like, oh, I want to have advanced logging and that's it. But hey, also they are paying for it. So maybe that we could say like, okay, if we have a lot of budget, then fine. But it's not really about that. It's about time that must pass when there is an incident, when someone's going to be searching through that whole huge amount of data, or maybe not enough amount of data. And that's something that we need to take into consideration. So that's why I'm saying the cloud security training for the sake of monitorability. So 3, hacking, securing, forensics and incident response, that's 1, and another cloud security 1.
Thank you, Paula. Now I'm going to be a bit selfish. I'm going to ask a question which is going to help benefit myself. Having offices in New York, in Dubai, in Europe, traveling the world, what recommendation will you give to people like me to keep up with social life? Because you spend so much time outside. You are so busy. What can we learn from you to stay positive as you are always?
Thank you. Like, why not being positive in general? So that's one part. But traveling is harsh. And being out there in so many places is definitely a challenge. Like my kind of average, except for pandemic, it's around 200 flights per year. So that's a lot. And I travel every single week. But what is important to maintain over there, it's hard to say that we should keep the balance because that's already off any kind of a balance levels. But to be surrounded with people that understand the priorities, the goals, they support you if they basically want to, and if you want to, then they can always travel with you. So overall, I think I'm supported with and surrounded with people like that. And that's,
I pretended I don't know that, but I know that very well for someone who knows you, I think since 2006, for so long.
Yeah.
All right. I was going to let you go, but I just remembered one more question. You are also a community leader, MVP, and something which is even more rare, a regional director. You spend lots of time with community as well. Do you have any tips to anyone who wants to be MVP? Are these different levels? I'm not going to ask that. Because you are a businesswoman. You are a frequent traveler. You are a girlfriend, wife, whatever. You are a daughter. You are a human being. And for someone who has more than 200 flights a year, still finding time for community, what is the passion behind it? So two questions.
Yeah, sure. So good question, definitely. So first of all, like anything that we can give, it's a contribution. And it's not that we need to have a plan for like, oh, I need to give that much. No, just like give whatever you think makes sense and whatever you feel comfortable with. If there's time, for example, to deliver the free training, to give your time, which is, I think, one of the most precious assets out there, especially in such a crazy world, then basically give that. And then you don't have to be doing it all the time. Just find the time and the momentum where you can do it. And that's what we see here as contribution. Some people like to do more of that. Some people want to give like enough and not to be super overwhelmed by that. But anything that you will contribute makes a change. So I think like finding that your own comfort level, it's the first step to define whether you can give more or you can give less and so on. And then of course people will notice, and that's it. Like we cannot really I think treat that as a goal of itself, but just like do that thing, and that's already something that brings a change, and the rest gonna come like with your experience. Like the more you're gonna do minor things, tiny things, the more experience you're gonna become in the couple of years. So that is the same thing when we think about the MVP or some other engagement. So that is, I think, the way of operating. And if you don't feel like you don't have energy for that, just don't do it. And then that time's going to come eventually if it is in your mind. So that motivation, it doesn't, I think, even have to be there that much if you would think like, okay, time to make a change. And that change, it's gonna always be there. You will always impact someone's idea. You will always be inspiring. Like, I find every conversation with everybody always inspiring and bringing something to my life. It could be something super tiny, but it could be big, even from the tiny conversation, because it's gonna motivate me to figure out some other ideas that I haven't been thinking about for a while, but someone said that magic word that for me was super magical and for someone was just like part of the statement. And that's something that for us, I think for the growth, it's beneficial. So if you share, you gain. And that's basically how it works.
Thank you very much, Paula. As a fellow MVP and regional director, I usually get all these questions, and it was great to listen from someone else. The answer. And thank you very much for being a wonderful MVP, community leader, and a great businesswoman as well, helping so many organizations across the globe. All right, with this, I think we're coming to the end of our talk. Would you like to say anything else before I let you go?
Yeah, well, I mean, in cybersecurity, we have to remember that the growth is very important, but let's again, don't be overwhelmed by that. It doesn't mean that you have to be losing your personal time by all means to be up to date. Of course, it's a matter of choice, but it doesn't mean that we have to be, spending 24 hours just in front of the computer. Absolutely not. There is such a thing like a team, and team is always very supportive. That's one part. And we shouldn't forget, and I will repeat it many, many times, that cybersecurity, it's truly about sharing. It might be just sharing within your team, but you cannot grow alone in cybersecurity. So you must find a group, a team, people that you like, that you can share your ideas with in order to grow. Cybersecurity is hard to do alone.
I totally agree. So we teach the little ones always that sharing is caring, and this is what cybersecurity is. The more you share, the more you care, and the more you learn. With this, we're coming to the end of another show. A huge thank you for my dear friend,
Thank you.
the cybersecurity celebrity Paula from CQURE. Paula shared her expertise, and I'm really thankful. To everybody who's watching the show, we hope you have gained actionable takeaways to strengthen your defenses, to deepen your understanding of cybersecurity's cutting edge. Remember, staying informed and proactive is the best line of defense. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to see all of you in the next episode. Paula, thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody,
Thanks,
thank you. I'm gonna play the video.